Aftershocks of a nightmare. This was the scene near the Detroit airport where a Northwest Airlines jet crashed moments after takeoff last night, killing at least 154 people.
There's this, you wouldn't believe it. It was just totally destroyed.
Good evening, Dan Rather with the CBS Evening News. It is the nation's second deadliest air crash ever, and today federal investigators joined police, firefighters, and rescue workers inspecting the twisted rubble. The wreckage is in a charred landscape at Chaplin called utter devastation, beyond words. Among the questions in this catastrophe, could an engine problem have caused it, and how did a 4-year-old girl survive the crash? Our coverage begins with Richard Roth.
The highway bordering Detroit's airport stayed closed today, surrounded by the scorched killing field where crash investigators began the job of determining what went wrong and why. Northwest Flight 255 last night, bound for Phoenix in Southern California, was barely airborne when eyewitnesses said it banked and rolled, smashing to a road north of the airport in a fiery explosion.
Everything was on fire, the trees, the grass, cars. You could see parts of everything just laying all over. It was terrible.
It blew up. It just blew apart, and there was just a great big wall of flame going down across the field over there.
The death toll was huge, more than 150 passengers and crew from the plane and 2 more people on the ground, motorists killed by the impact or the inferno. A neighborhood man who knew his friend was on the road saw the fireball and feared the worst.
I guess she just made the light at Wick and Middlebelt, and the explosion pushed her car, and she felt the flames. She thought her car was on fire, and she saw debris falling all around her. So all she did was floor it, and if she would have got caught at the red light, she would have been dead.
An airport car rental building was hit first by the twin-engine jet. By every account, within seconds of takeoff, the flight had appeared headed for disaster. Some eyewitnesses said they saw fire at the tail of the plane. Then it slammed beneath a railroad overpass and, as one man put it, crumbled like a sheet of paper, debris scattering more than half a mile. The wreckage was spread so far that authorities had some difficulty keeping the entire crash site intact for investigators. Some of the debris was carried away before the area was closed. Authorities recovered some of it and arrested at least 6 people on charges of looting bodies at the crash scene. Equipment designed to record cockpit voices and flight data has been retrieved from the wreckage to be analyzed by the National Transportation Safety Board.
It would not do any of us any good at this point to make any assumptions about what may or may not be involved in this accident.
Privately, though, authorities are discounting speculation about either a bomb or union sabotage. One report said the pilot radioed an urgent distress call an instant before impact. But the accident investigation, like the mourning for the victims, is only beginning. Richard Roth, CBS News, Romulus, Michigan.
She came early to Detroit's airport this morning, hoping for a miracle. Sharmila Biswas's new husband was on board Flight 255.
They told me there are no survivors, so I don't know. There's not much hope left.
Almost all the victims are headed to Phoenix. Today, many of their friends and relatives are making flights back to Detroit to begin the painful task of identifying the bodies still being placed in makeshift morgues at the airport. Last night, Phoenix lost one of its young athletes.
Tip up by Vanos is good.
Pro basketball player Nick Vanos, a 7'2" center, who this year was expected to break into the starting lineup.
I get to go to his basketball games. I'm so proud of him. He was the greatest brother.
He was just great. We will miss him.
A 4-year-old girl, badly burned, was pulled from the wreckage, still alive but in critical condition. Authorities don't know if she was on the plane or on the ground when the crash occurred. There have been few expressions of relief here, mostly from people who missed the plane.
You're glad for me? Well, I'm glad for me too.
Today, Detroit's airport was back to normal, jam-packed with executives on business trips and kids on vacation. Their travel slowed but not stalled by the memory of Flight 255.
It's always that one time that you could be on the plane and you could die with all those other people that died last night.
I'm always worried when I fly, but I fly anyway.
Almost always, the fear is uncalled for. This time, it was not.
So this weekend, I guess, would have finally good luck.
Gary Reeves, CBS News, Detroit.
Late today, CBS News was told that Tony Cishon of Philadelphia believes the 4-year-old girl who was critically injured in the Northwest crash is his granddaughter. Tony Cishon reportedly is on his way now to Detroit. He said the girl was traveling with his son and his daughter-in-law. Pratt & Whitney is the manufacturer of the engines which powered the Northwest jetliner. Pratt & Whitney today declined to speculate on what may have caused the crash, but the troubled past of some of their engines is one reason federal officials now are taking a hard look at them. Peter Van Sant has that part of the story.
NTSB investigators at the accident scene are zeroing in on remnants of the DC-9's left engine after reports from some eyewitnesses who say it exploded moments before the crash.
The rear of the plane was on fire. The engine, tail of some sort, it was on fire.
When an engine comes unglued in flight, the high energy that's contained in the rotating equipment is liable to go through fuel lines, is liable to do other things which can produce a fire in flight.
CBS News has been told that the Pratt & Whitney JT-8D engines used on the Northwest jet have a recent history of breakdowns in flight and have raised the concern of 2 federal agencies. In February, the FAA sent an airworthiness directive to all airlines using the JT-8D engines, warning that unless certain parts were replaced, problems could develop, quote, which could result in the loss of engine power. Then in April, following more problems with the engines, the NTSB urged new inspections and replacement of more troublesome parts, saying the potential for an uncontained engine failure and possible airplane damage exists. The new recommendations followed 3 in-flight failures of JT-8Ds involving American, Pacific Southwest, and Muse Airlines. The Aviation Safety Institute reports that there have been at least 7 other in-flight breakdowns over the past year. Airline officials worldwide want to know if there's something seriously wrong with the JT-8D.
Not only are U.S. airlines listening for this information, but airlines all over the world at this moment are straining their ears, waiting for information on what might have caused this accident.
Older models of the JT-8D, which are used on nearly 70% of the U.S. airline fleet, have been involved in a series of incidents. 2 years ago in Milwaukee, 31 people died when a DC-9 lost power and crashed. 54 people died in Manchester, England, when a JT-8D exploded, causing a deadly fire. Later tonight, investigators say they may know whether engine failure contributed to the Detroit crash. Officials will then have to determine what caused the breakdown and whether other airlines need to perform preventive maintenance. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Atlanta.
We've asked Peter to hold on in our Atlanta bureau. Peter Van Sant, we've all been told on an airliner such as this, the plane can fly on one engine. If that's the case, then why did it crash?
Well, that's the mystery right now, Dan. Airline pilots routinely go through simulator training where they shut down one of these engines at takeoff at the worst possible time. The planes are designed so that they can lift off and return to the airport. My best guess, based on the information we've heard so far, is that it was a catastrophic failure of the engine, that it literally exploded. Pieces of hot metal went inside the plane, possibly damaging control surfaces so that the pilot couldn't have control of that airplane anymore. One of the ways we're going to solve this mystery is by listening to that cockpit voice recorder. We'll hear the pilot's last words. If he says, "I can't control it," we'll know that there was very likely damage from that flying metal.
Peter Van Sant in Atlanta, and underscoring that nobody knows whether the engine had anything to do with the crash. Upcoming on tonight's CBS Evening News, Rudolf Hess, the last of the Nazi leaders and the sole inmate of a German prison, dies at age 93. And Anthony Mason on a dispute in Britain over a spy catcher and the protection of state secrets. Sound like the makings of a book? It is a book.
It's a question of taste. If you had your pick of 2 cereals, both with 100% nutrition, would you pick the one with just one kind of flake? Or Kellogg's Just Right with 3 different kinds of flakes, plus hearty rolled oats, plump raisins, sweet juicy dates, and crisp crunchy nuts? You're not alone. 3 out of 4 people picked Just Right over every other high vitamin cereal. There was no question of nutrition. It was simply a question of taste. Kellogg's Just Right with fruit or whole grain.
Now it's Mazda's final 87 model clearance. Get $1,000 worth of options free from Mazda or $1,000 cash back from Mazda on all Mazda cars and trucks. On every 87 323, 626, RX-7, and truck in stock. It's your choice. 1,000 worth of options free or 1,000 cash back. Use cash back toward your down payment or get a check from Mazda. Hurry! Mazda's final 87 clearance ends soon.
There's a war going on in your mouth. Your teeth are being attacked by plaque. Dentists say it's worse than tartar because plaque acids can start cavities. And plaque bacteria can lead to gum disease. But there's help. Checkup toothpaste helps remove plaque everywhere you brush. Checkup gum helps remove plaque between brushings. So switch to Checkup and fight plaque back.
Spandau Prison in Berlin is going to be torn down. That announcement came from the Western Allies today, shortly after the death of Rudolf Hess. He's the last of the Nazi war criminals to die in Spandau. Hess was 93. He was once Adolf Hitler's closest aide, and he fell from power in one of the most bizarre episodes of World War II. From London, Tom Fenton reports.
Hess was one of the first and lived to become the last of the top Nazi leaders. One of Hitler's closest advisors during his rise to power in the 20s and 30s, he eventually became his deputy. Then, at the height of the war in 1941, Hess astounded the world by piloting a plane to Scotland and bailing out over the estate of the Duke of Hamilton, whom he had once met. Hess claimed he was on a private peace mission and expected the Duke to take him to see King George VI. Instead, he was imprisoned. The real motives for his mission are still debated by historians.
To get Britain to join Nazi Germany to invade Russia, which is why Stalin wouldn't, and other Russian leaders wouldn't release him from Spandau.
Rudolf Hess. After the war, Hess was turned over to the Nuremberg War Crimes Court. At his trial, he first claimed amnesia and then admitted he had been faking. Sentenced to life, he was sent to the Spandau prison in West Berlin. In recent years, he was the only inmate guarded in turn by soldiers of the four occupying powers, including the Russians. His only visitors were his lawyer and his family. Told that he might be released on humanitarian grounds if he signed a statement regretting the Nazi atrocities, Hess replied, "I regret nothing." Hess was forbidden to write or speak about the Nazi years. The full story behind his strange flight to Scotland was one of the many secrets he took with him to the grave. Tom Fenton, CBS News, London.
Investigations by Iran-Contra Independent Counsel Lawrence Walsh of $8 million in arms profits placed in secret Swiss bank accounts may produce criminal charges, the fraudulent misappropriation of U.S. government funds. This in a report today by the Associated Press, the AP quoting unnamed sources with knowledge of the investigation. A spokesman for Walsh refused to comment. Nearly a month after the U.S. Navy began escorting Kuwaiti tankers through the Persian Gulf, U.S. minesweeping helicopters went into action today. British and French minesweepers are also finally on their way to the Gulf. Doug Tennell reports on the buildup, the delay, and the threat.
The tankers that will sail in America's next convoy through the Gulf were standing by off Kuwait today, waiting for a U.S. Navy ship to clear a path out. The Guadalcanal, which got here over the weekend, has just started clearing a channel through the middle of the Gulf with a team of minesweeping helicopters, a complicated, time-consuming task to counter a simple threat. Mines like this one, designed in 1908, dropped over the side of tiny wooden boats, have menaced some of the world's biggest modern ships. In Scotland, the families of sailors on board 4 Royal Navy minesweepers said goodbye today as the ship set sail for the Gulf. 3 French minesweepers left the port of Toulon for duty here. And in the Gulf of Oman, sharpshooters from the Russian Navy guarded against mines from the deck of a top-of-the-line Soviet destroyer that just joined 4 other Russian ships here. While criticism of America for the high-profile commitment grows, the Soviets have been standing quietly by, reinforcing Moscow's new image as a moderate, non-provocative superpower, everybody's friend. Even though the Russians supply most of Iraq's weapons, they are welcome in Iran now. They have signed new trade agreements with Tehran while leasing 4 big oil tankers to Kuwait.
Mr. Gorbachev has been very subtle in his activities towards Iran. He's been waiting for us to get into a fight with the Iranians.
When the mines were found here the other day, almost everybody had to move. The Soviets seized the opportunity to drop anchor right in the middle of the entrance to the Gulf. Doug Tennell, CBS News in the Gulf.
In England, police said today they have arrested an Arab man suspected of plotting terrorist attacks throughout Europe. They discovered 68 pounds of explosives in the man's apartment. Police stumbled on the cache of explosives as they were investigating the recent shooting in London of a political cartoonist who worked for a Kuwaiti newspaper. He is in critical condition. Hong Kong sent a high-level delegation to China today to try to cut off a flood of Vietnamese refugees who wound up in China and who now want to get out. Richard Wagner reports.
These people are being drawn here every day by a rumor going around southern China that Hong Kong will offer them refuge and the chance of resettlement in the West. The rumor is both cruel and without foundation. Hong Kong does not want them.
These people are not refugees. They are people who have settled in China. They must be returned to China.
It's not easy for the Hong Kong police to intercept the illegal aliens. There are thousands of square miles of water to patrol and not enough search boats to do the job. Nonetheless, hundreds are caught daily. Hong Kong is so swamped by legal refugees from Vietnam that these newcomers are being stored on ferry boats anchored in the harbor. There's little room and less compassion for them here. These floating jails or dreary detention camps are as close as they'll come to freedom. What they're fleeing is a life of grinding poverty in China. These people complain they can't afford even the tiny fee required for educating their children in the People's Republic. Chinese officials say they'll cooperate with Hong Kong and take back the Vietnamese, but they're doing it with the slowness of the water torture. Each of these people will spend 6 to 12 months in custody before being sent back to a country that doesn't seem to want them very much either. No matter how many refugees the police seize and send back to China, this human flood is unlikely to stop as long as those who think they have no hope there believe their future lies here. Richard Wagner, CBS News, Hong Kong.
Have you driven a Ford?
Now get low 1.9% financing or a $600 cash bonus on America's award winner, Ford Taurus, and Thunderbird, including Turbo Coupe. Also get 1.9 financing or $400 cash bonus on Escort and Tempo. Combine the cash bonus with option package discounts and save up to $1,358 on Tempo, $1,094 on Escort, $1,150 on Taurus, and $1,682 on Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. Great values at your Ford dealer now.
The heat of the sun, searing, relentless. An ordinary window lets most of it right in. But Anderson's high-performance sun window turns hot sun into cool daylight. It actually reduces the sun's heat 2.5 times better and helps eliminate the rays that fade fabrics. Come home to cool Anderson windows, the most refreshing glass under the sun. Where can you buy Anderson windows? Call this number.
You'd expect it to be a hard-working antacid. You'd expect it to be rich in calcium and sodium-free. But what you don't expect is that it tastes so good. Cherry-flavored, calcium-rich Rolaids antacid. The relief you want, the taste you desire.
When you're allergy sensitive, your next attack may be only a breath away. For relief, depend on Benadryl. Doctors have prescribed it more than any allergy medication ever. Benadryl from Park Davis.
A drug scandal has hit the Pan American Games again. Officials in Indianapolis today disqualified 6 athletes who tested positive for illegal substances. One is American Bill Green. He's winner of the silver medal in the hammer throw. Officials said tests indicate Green was using steroids. The other disqualified athletes include a Nicaraguan who won 3 medals in weightlifting. During the 1983 Pan Am Games in Caracas, 19 athletes were disciplined for drug use. A court hearing tomorrow will focus on what appears to be a series of particularly callous killings. But the anger over those crimes is also directed against what may happen in the courtroom. Frank Courier explains.
Donald Harvey, nicknamed by co-workers the Angel of Death, is expected to be indicted tomorrow in Cincinnati for the murders of at least 34 patients at 2 area hospitals where he worked. What could be the largest ever serial slaying in the U.S.
Mr. Harvey, were they mercy killings?
In a 5-week grand jury probe where investigators have exhumed at least 10 bodies of suspected victims, Harvey has been linked to 23 patient deaths at Drake Hospital, 6 more at the Cincinnati VA facility, and 5 others. He's confessed to killing comatose patient John Powell and is suspected of trying to poison his former roommate hairdresser, Carl Holweller. According to a videotape confession sources say he gave to police, Harvey murdered his victims using cyanide or arsenic, or by injecting air into their veins or suffocating them with pillows.
My concern is simply that 34 people who lost loved ones find out what happened.
Among victims' relatives, there is outrage over reports prosecutors will allow Harvey to escape the death penalty by admitting to several mercy killings in exchange for a life sentence.
If this is the worst serial killing in the United States, I can't imagine it's going to be brushed under the rug like this.
If he is guilty, then I certainly think he should pay for his crimes.
Today, the Drake Hospital administrator appeared before the grand jury amidst cover-up accusations from staff nurses who say their warnings about Harvey were ignored.
We were told in no uncertain terms to shut up, that they didn't want to hear any more about that.
Surprised by the accusations, Harvey's family remembers his 10 years as a morgue assistant at the VA hospital, calling him well-adjusted and clean-cut.
He likes a clean house, clean car, clean everything. He wants everything in order.
Donald Harvey is scheduled to appear before a judge tomorrow morning, what could be the first step of a plea bargain that'll send him to jail for the rest of his life, but might also keep details of the grand jury's findings secret forever. Frank Courier, CBS News, Cincinnati.
A published report today said that an experimental AIDS vaccine developed by a small firm will be the first to receive U.S. government approval for testing on humans. The Washington Drug Letter says the vaccine, which was developed by Microgenesis of West Haven, Connecticut, will be tested under government supervision. The Food and Drug Administration would not comment on whether it has approved limited trials of this vaccine. Another Wall Street barrier crashed today as the Dow Jones Industrial Average climbed more than 15 points to close above the 2,700 level for the first time in history. Analysts said investors continue to pour money into the stock market for fear of losing out on the boom. It was just a week ago that the Dow first broke the 2,600 mark.
It took 2,000 years, but a revolutionary discovery is changing the way men think about coloring their gray hair. It's called Just for Men, from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men, and in 5 minutes, shampoo out. Your gray is blended away, leaving your natural-looking color. 5 minutes. Here, look at me. Just for Men leaves your hair looking healthy and fuller, and it won't fade or wash out. Just for Men, in the men's hair care section.
4 bedrooms for just you and me.
It doesn't have to be just you and me.
I just got promoted. I'm not ready to be a mother.
Well, I'm ready to be a father.
I'm ready to get rid of this headache.
Anacin, doctor recommended for pain relief. What do you think?
At least my headache's gone.
I mean about a family. The Anacin formula contains aspirin, the pain-relieving medicine doctors recommend most.
This could make a great den. Or a nursery. Someday.
Doctor recommended Anacin and maximum strength Anacin.
My son recommended Preparation H for my hemorrhoidal symptoms. Why should I listen to a kid? That kid is also a doctor.
In a national survey, 2 out of 3 doctors named Preparation H among the hemorrhoid remedies they recommended to their patients.
Doctors know best.
If you're 55 and retired, you can save on Allstate homeowners and car insurance.
Leave it to the good hands, people.
If you're not 55 and retired, quit your job and get old.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
A member of the Sears Financial Network.
Today's rebel ambush of a Salvadoran army convoy was their heaviest attack in months. As many as 9 soldiers were killed. The guerrillas opened fire on the convoy after a mine exploded under the lead truck. The guerrillas agreed last week to open ceasefire talks with President Duarte next month as part of an overall Central America peace plan. The confessions of a former British counterspy are at the top of the bestseller list this week here in the United States. In Britain, it's still against the law to sell the book. But as one London newspaper wrote, it's a law made to be broken. Anthony Mason reports how it pays to spy and tell.
The memoirs of a British intelligence officer were expected to slip quietly into bookstores. Then the British government slapped a ban on Spycatcher and all hell broke loose in the empire.
First copy sold on the day of publication.
In Hyde Park, excerpts have been read aloud at Speaker's Corner. Pirated American copies are being sold on British highways. And Danish radio broadcast excerpts across Europe.
The Danish transmitters put out a signal strong enough to be heard in southeast England, where Mrs. Thatcher doesn't want anyone to hear.
If we leave it such that any person in the security services can reveal any secret, we're going to have no security services.
The man in the floppy hat has caused all this controversy. The government says that Peter Wright, in writing his memoirs, violated the Official Secrets Act, which forbids government employees from talking about anything without official approval. By some, Wright's even been called a traitor.
Oh, rubbish.
Spycatcher alleges that British agents plotted to destabilize the government of Prime Minister Harold Wilson in the early 1970s. The ban not only prevents British publishers from printing the allegations, it prevents the British media from reporting them.
And therefore, which I cannot reveal either.
The courts have backed the government. "You fools," blared one British tabloid and printed the judge's pictures upside down.
The press in Britain is now less free than it's been at any time in peacetime Britain in this century.
But an embarrassed government apparently believes that backing down would be even more embarrassing.
I don't ever think it'll be on the bookshelves of stores in Britain, but that won't stop it.
The book is selling everywhere. It's selling in Texas, it's selling in California, it's selling in the Midwest.
Most of all, they're reading it in Britain. And that, after months of injunctions and court cases, is Peter Wright's revenge. Anthony Mason, CBS News, London.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather. See you tomorrow. Good night.
When it's smooth and easy, like Sunday morning, and it tastes your way.
It's necessarily Nescafe, great coffee blends to change the way. That's necessarily Nescafe.
Now it's Mazda's final 87 model clearance. Get $1,000 worth of options free from Mazda or $1,000 cash back from Mazda on all Mazda cars and trucks. On every 87 323, 626, RX-7, and truck in stock. It's your choice. $1,000 worth of options free or $1,000 cash back. Use cash back toward your down payment or get a check from Mazda. Hurry! Mazda's final 87 clearance ends soon.
Your doctor has a new way to help prevent a heart attack. It's a medicine you take once a day. Aspirin. Studies with people who had a heart attack or unstable angina show aspirin reduces heart attacks as much as 50%. Maybe it could help you. Ask your doctor about a regimen of aspirin, exercise, and the right foods. He knows what's right for you. This message brought to you by Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders.
New hope for hemophiliacs. It's a life-saving discovery that eliminates the fear of AIDS. Dr. Bob Arnott with the story tomorrow on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.
Just ahead on Eyewitness News, the date for the mayoral election is drawing more attention than the issues in that race, and now the whole thing is going to court. And the Tennessee Air Guard is a step closer to leaving Metro and moving to the Smyrna Airport. We'll have those stories and a lot more tonight on Eyewitness News, which is coming up next.
And I thought you said we're going to have a cookout.
No problem. Now there's a hickory smoked Heinz 57 sauce that has that great backyard barbecue taste right in the bottle. So it gives chops, chicken, steak, that tangy, delicious, natural flavor